Welcome to episode 1. If you were looking for career-changing tools for your leadership toolbox, you are in the right place. In this segment, I will lay out for you the building blocks for a 4-step leadership pattern you can follow to help you lead an organization as dynamic and demanding as a Marine Corps platoon. Plus, I will give you a personal bonus step to really help you be the catalyst which enables your team to thrive. Those building blocks include delegating stewardship, using billet expectations, leadership stability, initial counseling, and coaching to develop your team, building a positive command climate through strong evaluations, and improved promotability of your Marines. This is episode 1. In all my years watching new officers struggle to make a difference as small unit leaders, this first leadership talent remains one of the most difficult to master. When the boss is calling for you to report on your progress on a high-vis project, the XO is calling to get your status on completing a hot tasker. Your computer has 50 new emails from training, admin, supply, and maintenance, all while the Marines are sitting around because they don't know what work needs to get done for the day. There's clearly too much going on for only 1 or 2 leaders to handle. So what ingredient is definitely missing here? Initiative? Sure. Planning? That's part of it. But if you said delegation, you would be correct. Delegation is needed, and small unit leaders struggle with it constantly. Of skills that new leaders struggle with, inability to delegate is certainly one of the most common and problematic. Even now, I still struggle with delegation. So what exactly is delegation? According to a really good basic definition, delegation is when a leader gives authority to another person to carry out specific activities. Easy, right? Well, let's unpack this a little bit more. Delegation also empowers the subordinate to make decisions. Delegation is a shifting of decision-making authority as well as responsibility for the results from one organizational level to another. Hey, I love that definition. A routine task like go inflate the tires on the JLTV doesn't require much decision-making. We are in the business of critical thinking and decision-making. Instead of tasking a Marine to inflate the tires, delegation would be to ensure the JLTV is roadworthy at all times, and then provide all of the training and resources necessary. What are some repetitive tasks that you can think of that could be replaced by delegation? Here are a few to try on for size. Go make sure each junior Marine gets into resident PME and annual rifle qual. Go make sure no one ends up on the medical hit list from this platoon. Go make sure everyone who travels for training gets their travel claims paid on time. Go make sure we can pass a safety inspection at any time. These are clearly way more than just short-term tasks. They are long-term responsibilities. They require initiative. They require commitment. And this next part is just as important. With delegation, accountability for the outcome of the work does in fact remain with the person who delegated the work to begin with. Marine leaders are, above all else, accountable. Delegation is the way we can accomplish the work and empower the team members without relinquishing our accountability over the results. This is so powerful that I'll say it twice. We cannot relinquish our accountability over the results. We can extend accountability to the person we delegate to, but we as leaders are never absolved of that accountability ourselves. Notice some of the key phrases in this topic: empowerment, decision-making authority, responsibility, accountability for the outcome. As leaders, we've probably encountered these phrases many times in various contexts, and we feel like they really fit well in the vocabulary of leadership. That's because they are the foundation for Marine Corps leadership tenets like centralized command and decentralized execution. We must empower junior leaders to be able to make decisions within commander's intent, especially when that commander is not close enough to personally direct efforts. However, as we'll discuss further, delegation is not just used to allow squad leaders to conduct tactical operations based on initiative and commander's intent. Delegation is also critical for ensuring all of the platoon's daily training, maintenance, administrative work gets done as well. Let's add another word to this language of leadership that goes well with the word delegation. That word is stewardship. Stewardship is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Again, management of something entrusted to one's care. Stewardship is a noun much like management, but it's perhaps closer to the word ownership. But even ownership is more of an attitude than an authority. With the word ownership, we're not quite zeroing in on the aspect of stewardship, where we entrust the management of something specific to a specific person's care. When platoon leadership teams delegate stewardship over the platoon's training, maintenance, or administrative functions to an NCO, they're both delegating authority to carry out specific activities, but are also expecting that NCO to take ownership. Stewardship is a responsibility that implies the highest level of trust or being entrusted. So earlier we said the delegation is the assignment of authority to a subordinate to carry out specific activities. There's a certain level of trust there. However, trusting a junior NCO to drive a tactical vehicle from point A to point V is very different from trusting them to read and understand the Marine Corps orders related to vehicle safety, maintenance, training, and then using that to add to the platoon's tactical vehicle SOP. Throughout this training series, we aim to develop junior leaders capable of not only the former, but the latter as well. The platoon commander's ability to lead depends on developing junior leaders that can be entrusted to take ownership over the platoon's many functional areas, including management of the platoon's tactical vehicles. But if the platoon commander must personally direct the platoon's tactical vehicle operations among his or her many other responsibilities, something is going to eventually give. Maybe it's poor weapons maintenance. Maybe it's reckless operation of generators or forklifts. Something is going to potentially undermine the platoon's ability to deploy and operate in combat. Stewardships put real-life, critically thinking people in positions of authority and ownership, so risk areas can get the attention they deserve. Finally, when determining which NCOs are highly recommended for promotion, giving them each a long-term stewardship over something goes a long way. Ideally, that something is more complex than barracks field day, but something is better than nothing. And as we'll discuss later, having NCOs acting as stewards over the platoon's many functional areas both develops them and breaks them out from among a very large pool of candidates for promotion. But it also ensures that the platoon commander's daily work in training, maintenance, and administration can actually get done. The way I see it, delegating stewardship has 3 requirements. It starts with knowing what needs to get done. I find that for Marine leaders, the willingness to delegate is not the main problem. More often, the new leader doesn't really know all the work which must be done, and therefore can't describe that work to others. Not knowing the work is the reason why this training series exists, to bring to light the work which most platoons in the Marine Corps probably need to accomplish in order to protect their deployability and readiness. The second, finding someone, a steward that can be trained to manage the work. There are capable NCOs in every unit. Some are ready today to manage something that requires sustained effort. Other NCOs are still early in their leadership journey and need more coaching before they're ready to handle the platoon's most vital or complex responsibilities. At minimum, initiative and determination are prerequisite for any stewardship. The individual's level of maturity, judgment, and capacity to handle complexity will help you determine a good match between the individual and the responsibilities that you need assigned. And third is some mix of supervising and coaching where the NCO is able to receive psychologically safe feedback and improve to maximize their effectiveness and autonomy. Few Marines are fire and forget on the first day of a new assignment. You should expect to be watching the Marine perform daily or weekly and find time to coach them and help them become their best selves. Just like you, I want you to become your best self. I can't tell you how exactly to divide your work among your junior leaders. I also can't do your supervising and coaching for you. However, in this series, I will ensure you know a lot of the functions which need to be performed in any platoon. I will give you a first draft of the written roles, responsibilities, and expectations for many typical billets like platoon sergeant, safety NCO, or battery NCO, for example. Stay tuned for that. Armed with this knowledge, you should be able to delegate stewardship over the many functions of your platoon for which you remain accountable, but still keep your head above water, lead, and ultimately thrive in your commandership. For now, the first of many typical stories that play out in platoons all across the Marine Corps to illustrate pains the platoons experience. It's nearing the end of a JPES evaluation period, and you need to evaluate your Marine's performance. If you haven't done initial counselings and you are just endorsing all recommended marks drafted for you, and you didn't get what you needed out of the platoon, you are abdicating your responsibility to lead. You've given it away. You are irrelevant. You don't matter. Why are these evaluations important? I'll tell you. Evaluations is how you can personally improve the promotability of each of your deserving Marines. They work day in and day out to accomplish your platoon's mission. Evaluations are also the main way to officially reduce the promotability of some other Marines whose marginal performance is bringing down the platoon's effectiveness. You probably have a few NCOs which stand out as being heavy hitters in their MOS. They have good conduct and physical fitness. They're likable, professional, and land high marks in every evaluation. But the majority of the rest fall into two categories, average and below average. Both may present a significant leadership challenge when it comes to writing evaluations. The average Marines may be capable, but haven't done anything extraordinary or outwardly heroic to stand out amongst their peers. In contrast, the performance of below average Marines borders on the unacceptable level, and unless corrective action is taken, they will erode the morale of the rest of the platoons who are putting in the effort. But it's the end of the reporting period, and unless you had set conditions 6 to 12 months ago, you probably aren't able to do anything drastic to make the average Marines appear competitive for promotion. You probably also can't do anything drastic to hold the below average Marines accountable for underperformance. In the last month of the reporting period, you tell the average Marines what they can do to get better. They can't possibly demonstrate excellent long-term performance fast enough to show they deserve better marks. If you give them better marks anyway, you don't have documented performance over the year that can substantiate or defend those marks. And now many of us know all too well, unsubstantiated higher marks get reverted back into the average range by higher authorities. Conversely, for some of the bottom performing Marines, marking them below the unacceptable level with derogatory marks at the end of the reporting period may feel right, but they also will be protected by 1, a lack of documentation, and 2, a lack of a long enough opportunities to show their improvement. Their derogatory marks will also probably be reverted back to the average range by the higher authorities. So now let's rewind the scenario back 12 months and look at the factors that led to this inability to evaluate the Marines in the platoon. As we go forward, consider how the use of billet expectations given in initial counselings, followed by observation, feedback, and coaching, all under stable command relationships, can set conditions for morale-building performance evaluations throughout the upcoming year. A small unit leadership structure and approach generally lead the members of the platoon to one of the following two experiences. In the first, more common experience, the junior Marines spend all day, every day, for months at a time, reacting to the whims of mid-level leadership of the platoon, accomplishing menial tasks given by corporals, sergeants, and just as likely staff NCOs as well. Those corporals and sergeants may or may not be executing a deliberate plan of the day, but the hallmark of this experience is when the junior Marines did not know yesterday the work they would be doing today. Many Marines sit around and wait to be tasked, or they find ways to vanish so they don't get scooped up into this working party or that detail, or they may get assigned some busy work until something meaningful comes along. Initiative is rare. Also common in this experience is a revolving door of NCO leadership for the various squads or work sections of the platoon. Sometimes we see a platoon sergeant of the week because platoon leadership team wants to develop all their sergeants equally, or because they want to spread demands on that level of leadership equally. NCO leadership over a fire team, for example, changes every month or two in order to load balance the various demands on the platoon and training opportunities for the Marines. But every time a leadership responsibility transfers from one NCO to another, the previous leader's vision for how his or her followers will experience the upcoming week, month, or year never gets realized. That NCO never gets a chance to see the Marines plan and execute a long-term plan, to provide them feedback, or to watch them develop over time. In this revolving door situation, it makes sense that no one wants to take time to provide initial written counseling to 6 new junior Marines, knowing that he or she will have 4 different junior Marines next month. What good is setting team goals this month when next month there will be a different job and different people with no tie-in to those previous goals? This leads to very short planning horizons and equally poor ability to gel and improve the functioning of the team. And here are the worst parts of this experience. First, since that platoon is spending all its time responding to today's crises, it is not doing proactive and preparatory work that contributes to the platoon's combat effectiveness while also preventing common pitfalls. In addition to mission readiness suffering, morale also suffers. This low morale can't be solved by a mandatory fun day, a pizza party, or even a 72. This is systemic low morale that convinces many smart and capable Marines to 3, take their knowledge, skills, and abilities, and walk away at the end of their enlistment. In the second, more ideal experience, the platoon's leadership approach and structure lead to stable leadership situations that can foster growth and initiative at the lower levels of the platoon. This could mean that your, say, 3 sergeants, one of them, probably your most senior, stays stable as the platoon sergeant for 6 to 12 months. This way, he or she can actually provide initial counselings to the squad leaders and other NCOs, observe the work they do, and provide feedback across many months. This is how good leadership relationships are built. The platoon sergeant is able to observe the NCOs as they exercise the higher order thinking needed to plan and implement long-term strategies that accomplish their parts of the platoon's mission. Whether their part of the mission is training, readiness, vehicle readiness, equipment accountability, they can all actually exercise stewardship over their work. They can build up knowledge to do their jobs better and faster. You can't have initiative without a picture of what that end state should be. Imagine if these NCOs all had a good picture of the end state because they had good leadership and training. That's the seed that grows into initiative, bias for action, and ultimately handling big problems on behalf of the platoon's leadership. It becomes very easy to describe a Marine's promotability when he or she is known to demonstrate higher order thinking, planning, and initiative. It's easy when the Marine has delivered long-term sustained capability, which materially improves the platoon's ability to accomplish the mission. On the other hand, it's very hard to talk about how awesome that Marine is when he or she has only just executed the plan of the day for 6 months and has not been accountable for any long-term stewardships. The point is, delegate the work to the junior leaders in the platoon and do your best to protect them from unnecessary changes in responsibilities. Sure, as they say, change is the only constant. But my friendly advice to you is to trend towards protecting leadership stability. When given some room to choose who will participate in a month-long detail and who will stay, fence off your key leaders until they've been in the position for 6 to 12 months. Longer than that, and the Marine may start to miss out on the broader development that a different job may afford them. 6 to 12 months is a good target for NCO leadership over a particular team or platoon function. So now we've described a platoon experience where junior leaders get more stewardships and keep them over long periods of time. How do they know their full responsibilities? How do we get their actions aligned with our vision for the platoon? How do we describe to them what right looks like for their piece of the puzzle? How do we generate initiative and then momentum? What does A+ performance look like to them? The answers to all these is very simple. Start the command relationship with an initial counseling, which communicates the billet expectations. So now let's revisit our difficulty in evaluating our Marines. Imagine you have 3 sergeants and 10 corporals in the platoon. Earlier, we were only able to justify the high marks of only a couple of top Marines. We were unable to break out the other average and below average Marines in the platoon. Let's go back 1 year to just after you finished your last annual evaluation cycle. What if at the end of last year's evaluation period, the platoon commander and staff NCOIC made sure all of the long-term platoon work was divided among the NCOs, including, for example, training, administration, and safety? What if then the leadership team had crafted a set of billet expectations custom for each of the NCOs, which made those expectations and responsibilities clear? What if in those custom billet expectations, the platoon's leadership team wrote down specific achievable work to be done, knowledge to obtain, and how to demonstrate success in that work? What do you think would be the most obvious benefits? Marines taking more initiative? Operations would be planned better and executed? Morale would increase? Yes to all of those. I 100% agree with you on that. Plus, I would add evaluations would be a lot easier to write, and you can get more of your people promoted. Dividing out the platoon's work and delegating it is proactive and high return on investment. But it's not easy, or else everyone would be doing it. And writing is probably not your favorite thing to do, but what you're doing here is building leadership structure, and it has a very high payoff. I will say with 100% confidence that the vast majority of platoon commanders and staff NCOs don't do this. For every 100 billet descriptions that are written, 99 of them were copied and pasted from someone else. That someone else may have had a very different set of responsibilities or were so generic as to be not observable and achievable. Without achievable expectations, written with a specific Marine in mind, that Marine will do a lot of guessing as to how they are truly being evaluated. In fact, that Marine will probably guess wrong for a significant portion of the reporting period. This leads to lackluster performance. Instead of being evaluated on how well they performed the duties in a billet description, Will they actually just be evaluated on their charisma or physical fitness? Will they be evaluated on how well they react to the short-term whims of today's task manager in charge? Will their contribution to the platoon's mission factor in at all to the evaluation? Want to level up your leadership? Do this. Crafting out billet descriptions for each NCO in the platoon is a very powerful way for the platoon commander and staff NCOIC to set the tone for the upcoming year, to generate an initiative among the junior leaders, and to ensure unity of effort, and to have complete coverage over all of the platoon's functional areas. Then, with a record of those billet descriptions in writing, we have something to point to when rewarding success or bringing those junior leaders back on target if they stray. Want to add some leverage to your leadership influence? Bring back the Marine into the office after 7, 14, or even 30 days and ask them to demonstrate how they've accomplished those expectations. If nothing else, that Marine will at least know with certainty that they are being evaluated based on those billet expectations and their own initiative. That is a big win for command climate. Bring each NCO back routinely and compare their performance against their billet description. Cynicism and perception of favoritism will go down dramatically. Pro tip, having junior leaders provide a weekly verbal or written progress report is a good way to have observation over that Marine's performance. That routine report and your impression of that Marine's effort is very powerful evidence for making elevated marks at the end of a reporting period as well. That brings us to counseling. Counseling usually rates a big fat eye roll by Marines everywhere. That's because counseling as an art and a form of leadership has been too often reduced to bureaucratic paper drills. No one has energy for that. If a process doesn't provide high return on investment, it's deprioritized, which is as it should be. However, there are two main reasons why so many people don't think counseling is worth it. First, they don't truly care about helping their people grow. And second, they don't have conviction as to what right really looks like, and therefore don't have any constructive criticism to give. Third, no one starts a command relationship with a well thought out set of expectations. At least those expectations don't jive with the platoon's mission, and or no one is bothering to put it in writing. Any corporal who has attended corporal's course knows how to counsel when it comes to basic Marine Corps appearance, conduct, or technical performance in their MOS, assuming that corporal is actually good in their MOS. However, without written expectations that describe long-term work, routine work products to be delivered, or functions to take ownership of, then counseling, if it does occur, just doesn't produce the actual results that the platoon leadership team really needs. Similarly, when billet descriptions are generic and Marine's performance is average, the supervisor who's performing the counseling will have a lot of difficulty providing meaningful feedback about the long-term performance or the contribution to the mission. The more leadership-oriented NCO will coach the junior Marine in setting some goals to achieve or make other good coaching efforts, but without a consistent long-term expectation, those goals will inevitably be forgotten when the section or squad is reorganized or the team's leadership changes seemingly every other month. This revolving door in small unit leadership is another difficult barrier to getting long-term results and worthwhile evaluations of junior Marines. A consistent but custom long-term billet expectation for each junior leader, as supervised by the platoon commander and staff NCOIC, is very resistant to the revolving door problem. Every NCO or staff NCO which may move in to supervise that Marine, should get access to that long-term billet description and learn what the expectation is of that Marine. The unfortunate reality is that low-functioning platoons, the new supervisor just gives them a new task and a new direction. That new task and direction may be leaving the platoon commander exposed to a risk area like safety or equipment readiness, which the previous supervisor saw fit to cover down on. With the habit of setting up expectations for each NCO or billet holder, it becomes quite achievable now to have a system of counseling which actually gets Marines talking about performance and improvement over time in a meaningful way. Average Marines will have tangible, long-term goals to achieve, and routine counseling against those goals will show him or her what they're being evaluated against. And this is a big win for command climate. Similarly, below average Marines can be held accountable for tangible failures. Written counseling, while onerous, are very powerful, providing that evidence that a seemingly average Marine rates elevated marks, and a below average Marine rates derogatory marks. These average, above average, and derogatory evaluation marks are critical for rewarding deserving Marines, improving the morale of the unit, and strengthening the institution. Written billet expectations and written counselings take effort, but they are two of the core essential functions of leadership. Now, these are functions that the platoon commander should take on personally instead of other routine work that can be delegated, like, for example, running reports in GCSS Marine Corps. So during the remainder of this Small Unit Leadership Training Accelerator, we will give plenty of source material for crafting important, meaningful, long-term billet expectations, which describe the work the platoon commander needs accomplished to protect the platoon's viability to deploy and operate in combat. Now, to bring it all together for this 4-step leadership pattern that will improve your platoon's effectiveness exponentially. Step 1, take a job responsibility that your platoon has and find an NCO that can do the work. Delegate. Step 2, tell them everything you can about what right looks like with that new responsibility. Tell them what they're going to do, tell them where to get training, and how they'll be evaluated. Set them up for success as best as possible. Give them that clear and complete set of billet expectations. Step 3, supervise them. Maybe you personally watch them work, or maybe you ask them to provide a weekly update on the progress. Compare their work products with the billet expectations you gave them. Judge whether the work matches the expectations or not. Judge their attitude, work effort, and other Marine qualities. Evaluate them as Marines. However, this is not the end. You must continue to step 4, coach them to be better. Provide feedback to improve their job effectiveness, but also reinforce how important the responsibility is in keeping the platoon ready to deploy and operate in combat. If they aren't getting the job done, tell them that. Just telling them that you know. Bonus step. When you're coaching them to be better at a job, also coach them to be a better human. You can't do this without first being curious about each of them as humans. You have to know them, know their wants, know what makes them tick, and know what kind of human they are starting from. Then find out where they want to go and commit to helping them get there. If you've done something that compromises you and makes you unattractive as a leader, it will be very difficult to make connections with your people. So you need to conduct yourself every day as a person who wants to do the right thing, who wants to connect with people, and wants to work in their best interests. Before we wrap it up, I want to give you my top book recommendation for improving your ability to give direction, coach, and give feedback. Radical Candor by Kim Scott teaches the rest of society what good Marine leaders already know about being frank and honest. But there's a slight twist. This book is just as much about being a good listener and drawing candid feedback out from the junior members of the team who might otherwise do their best to fade into the background. This is an excellent read for anyone who's leading a team, especially at the beginning of their leadership journey. This book was written pretty late in my career, but I wish I'd had it a lot earlier. I have a ton more to say about work culture and setting conditions for teams to thrive, but for now, you'll just have to stay tuned. In summary, during this segment, we explored the concept of delegating stewardship. Then we discussed how to use billet expectations, leadership stability, initial counseling and coaching to develop your team, and building a positive command climate through strong evaluations and improved promotability of your Marines. This concludes episode 1. Also, I want you to be the type of leader that is getting 1% better every day. One way to do that is to always be starving for 360-degree feedback. Don't be a coward about receiving critical feedback. Welcome it and use it to make you better. Your Marines and the mission deserves your max potential. Just like you, I want to be 1% better every day too. You deserve my max potential. So roast me in the comments. Tell me what to improve so this knowledge will get into the brains of the Marines around us and make us better leaders. Coming up next, why would you recklessly accept risks to your Marines, your equipment, and your mission when you could transfer those risks instead? In the next episode, find out how you can be bold and aggressive in leadership while preserving your unit's viability to deploy and operate in combat. Stay tuned for this and other episodes about platoon commander roles, responsibilities, and expectations, and other concrete details needed to lead Marines at the platoon level. Since you're serious about being a catalyst for your team's growth and success, I'll expect to see you there.